In this video, we're going to talk about Agenda 2030. This is a plot designed to destroy sovereign nations. Hey, Sandy, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Rich. Really pleased to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome, and I'll have all the links in the description below where people can find you. So, Agenda 2030, I've heard about this, seen this a little bit. There are all these 17 sustainable goals, and it ties in with the Great Reset, and they're doing this to destroy our lives and our livelihoods. But really, isn't it all for our own good?
I wish, Rich, I really wish that were the case. And do you know, I've sort of, chucked this around my head because I've always gone into it and I found it to be particularly bad. And I keep thinking, have I got it wrong? And I started talking about this a long time ago in the sort of mid 2000s, early to mid 2000s, when it was Agenda 21. It was called the Agenda for the 21st Century. And it was, I began to sort of look into it and realize it was bad. And people vilified me. They said, "Oh, you're mad. You're crazy. It's wonderful. It's the United Nations. They're good." And I just carried on, researching it. And honestly, I've had so much flack over it. But actually, everything that I've said is, it's all manifested. All the things that I realized were. I'm not saying I'm not bigging myself up, but it just means that the more you feel in your heart that something's wrong, just keep going because it often you're right. And I was looking at Agenda 21. And it was incepted really at the Earth Summit in 1992. This is where it came from, Agenda 21, and it was a big Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro where they got virtually the leaders of the whole world to sign up to global governance. They thought they were signing up to save the planet, but it was actually global governance. So
Sorry,
they
Sandy,
they
hold on a second.
yeah
How they were signing up to save the planet, but it turned out to be global governance. How
yeah
did they do that? Is that like they covered up what the real deal in the agreement was with a piece of paper and had people sign? How does
oh
that
yeah.
work?
Oh yes. Well, it was if you looked at the original goals, because now we've got 17 goals, which happened in 2015 because it wasn't moving fast enough. But at the Earth Summit, they had eight sustainable goals, or they called them the millennial goals. And these goals were very sugar coated, and it was all about sustainability and saving the planet with there's too much CO2 in the atmosphere. We've got to stop it. We've got to have sanctions on limits to, well, they also had based it on Club of Rome reports like limits to growth,
Mm,
which was all about depopulation. There's too many people on the planet. We've got to do something about that. And they chucked all these ideas about, but they were Club of Rome reports. So the whole of the Earth Summit, the United Nations Earth Summit, did originate from the Club of Rome, because the Club of Rome commissioned a lot of these Club of Rome reports, which made Agenda 21. So, I mean,
okay,
there's,
but
yeah, yeah.
forgive me, right? Because I think you could just wax lyrical
Oh,
about
sorry,
this,
yeah.
right, for hours and
Going on
hours and
too
hours.
much.
But I want to make sure that people are, including myself,
Yeah.
stay up to date with what you're talking about, right? And there's things that
Okay.
you talk about that you may take for granted because you talked about it so much that
Yeah.
people don't know. So tell us, what is the Club of Rome? It sounds like a really great club where powerful people look out for our welfare.
Well, the Club of Rome was put together in 1968, and it was really a crisis think tank. So if you imagine, you've got sort of people like the Rockefellers, for instance. It was actually it came to being at the Rockefellers' property in Bellagio in Italy in 1968. So these globalists got together and they said, "Well, we need enemies to unite us. We need a common enemy." And they figured out that climate change would be a good one because, or they called it then global warming. So they're a crisis think tank, and so they had a number of ways that they could actually get everybody on board, and they actually made us the people the enemy, because they said in trying to find an enemy to unite us, we chucked around ideas like global warming or earthquakes or flooding or whatever. And we thought global warming would fit the bill, and that was in the first global revolution, which was a one of their global think tanks documents. So all they put this all together, and that's what they are. They're a crisis think tank.
But who was the they that put this all together, and what's their
Aurelio
intention?
Peccei, a chap
Okay,
called Aurelio Peccei.
and who was Aurelio Peccei, and
He was
what was he
the
about?
He was an Italian industrialist at the time, very, very big, powerful Italian industrialist, and he was working very closely with the the United Nations at the time, and also, the WEF didn't come until 1978, I believe, but all of this is linked. All these organizations link up. The Club of Rome, the United Nations, and the WEF. Eventually, they all come together to create this, what we've got now, basically, which now they're calling the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So it went from the Club of Rome to the Earth Summit in 1992, where they signed up. They got all the leaders of countries to sign up to the technocracy that would bring in what we've got now, which is
Okay,
the Fourth
now
Industrial Revolution. Yeah.
now the Club of Rome. My understanding is that they are eugenicists, the
Oh, they
members.
are. Yeah, they are.
Right.
I mean, the first Club of Rome report was in 1972. Not long after they'd put the Club of Rome together in 1968. In 1972, it was Dennis Meadows with Limits to Growth, which was all about um, depopulation. And there's a lot of Malthusian stuff in it, a lot of computer modeling in it, which never worked anyway. So we've got all this stuff saying, there's too many of us on the planet. We've got to, and wild predictions about population by 1980, and how there wouldn't be enough food to go around and all this sort of thing. And people really bought into it. And then after that, they had another Club of Rome report called Our Common Future, which was really about the shift of financial power from the west to the east. So that was how, that was kind of how they'd get over that one with what they called leveling up, getting the west to equalize with the east. And so we kind of lost a lot of our industry at that time. And then I think the third one, really before the Earth Summit, was called the First Global Revolution, which is where they were literally trying to find a way of uniting humanity with a common enemy. And it turned out the enemy was us, because apparently we'd caused global warming. And so we became the enemy in 1991, which is why we're kind of in the mess we're in.
Yes, well, that ties into the notion of humanity being the virus that's destroying the planet.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
where exactly where that came from. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay. Okay. So there was this. I remember the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. I remember it being a big, big deal. Didn't really
Yeah.
look into it, but there was reams of pages of coverage in The Guardian, which used to be fairly decent at one point, certainly
It
before
was
lockdown.
once. Yeah.
It was once, right? Um, so then they came up with Agenda 2021, and it was with 8 goals, and it was couched in really lovely language that it's good for you. And do you know what I think, listening to you, Sandy? I don't know if you know this, but I work as a child protection social worker.
I only realized that when I was listening to Joaquin's, yeah,
Yes.
interview. Yeah.
And one of the things I see, what informs my geopolitical analysis, one of the things is fractals,
Yeah.
because it's human behavior at different levels.
Brilliant.
And
Yeah.
what abusers do is they have this really great pretense,
Yeah.
oh, this is for your own good.
Mhm.
I'm doing this for your own benefit. And people buy into that pretense, and they don't bother digging deep and
No.
examining it and questioning it. But clearly you did, because you said that, you told me before we started recording, is that you smelt something fishy about this when you first
Yes.
came across it.
Yeah. I worked in the corporate world, and I was a designer, and we were working with Microsoft, and I'd been reading I'd been reading what's her name? Rosa Corey's book called Behind the Green Mask, about the idea that they want to create smart cities and all that kind of thing. And I was working on a program for Microsoft, and it was almost like it was an installation for a mini smart city. And I suddenly realized, my all the dots joined in my head, and my colleagues thought I was mad when I sort of said, "Oh, this is really weird," and they didn't get it. Anyway, I then really did a deep dive into it all, and I could see where it was all coming from. And I learned about the Earth Summit and exactly what happened there. And it was oil billionaires behind the Earth Summit. Really, what they'd done is they'd already invested in all the carbon credit banks. You'd got Obama had launched the Chicago Climate Exchange, and all the billionaires, and Maurice Strong, who was a Canadian, who was at the time he was the Secretary General of the United Nations. He was heavily into this new green finance, and so this was the way they'd sort of like usher it in and get rid of money as we know it, price-based economy, into carbon economy.
Okay, Maurice Strong, now he was the father of climate change,
That's right. Yeah,
right?
he was
I didn't
he
know he
was
was director of general of United Nations.
Yeah, oh
And
yeah, in 1992. He was the one that he was the father of Agenda 21 at the time. He
right,
was the
right, right,
grandfather of Agenda 21. And he worked for the Rockefellers for many, many years in their asset management side of things. He was an oil billionaire in his own right. He was also, he quoted, he was what did he call himself? A communist in ideology, but a capitalist in methodology. So it kind of fits into the whole stakeholder capitalism model. So that he was a perfect person to really give birth to Agenda 21. And that's what he did.
right. And
Yeah.
actually, the perfect person in terms of distinguishing how CO2 is destroying the planet, given that he was such a celebrated scientist.
Well, do you know what's really funny about
Which,
him?
sorry, Sandy, which he wasn't.
I
That's the
know,
point.
yes, I know.
Yeah, if
You're
you
you're
people
very funny.
watching, right, you go to your friends who are photosynthesis deniers and ask them who is the scientist that came up with the climate change and discovered that how harmful CO2 is. They won't know because it
No,
wasn't a scientist. And we don't talk about the scientists behind this most important of discoveries, that how CO2 will destroy us, according to the photosynthesis deniers.
exactly. I mean, it was really interesting at the Earth Summit because they had the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that was financed completely by George Soros and all these people that were. It was their vested interest to have this. So the IPCC was a bit like the gatekeepers. It was a board of mainly biologists and people in universities who got funding for pushing the climate change narrative. So the whole thing was very cleverly orchestrated. Yeah.
Right.
And
Okay.
one thing about George Soros, I mean not George Soros, sorry, Maurice
Maurice
Strong,
Strong. Yeah.
was when he got involved, he was a complete crook when he got involved in the oil for food scandal with what's his name, Adnan Khashoggi, and he was going to be prosecuted in America, so he fled to China. And he lived in China for many, many years after that. But he set up a car company called Cherry, Chery, I think it was. And they made carbon unfriendly cars to sell to the American market. So it just shows you that he didn't have any scruples whatsoever. It was all
No.
about money.
And
Yeah.
what was the oil for food scandal? How does that tie in with this?
Do you know, I'm just trying to remember. My brain is so full of facts and figures. It was it was a scandal that happened in the 19, it must have been around the 1990s. I think it was the 1990s. And it was something to do with a payoff between bankers and sovereign nations, and it was a thing where they were basically blackmailing them, saying, "Look, we'll give you money, and you give us so you will give you stuff, and you will have your resources." It was
Ah,
yeah, it was awful. Yeah,
right. Bankers.
it was oil. But we'll have your oil, but yeah, we'll give
Right.
you what you need.
So,
Yeah,
so bankers who were negotiating with countries in such a way as to take their resources.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Wonder who came up with that model. Perhaps the square
Mm.
mile of the city of London,
Well,
perhaps.
yes,
Yeah.
I think I think you're
Okay.
right.
Okay. So then these countries, all 193 nations, signed up
Signed
to
up.
Agenda
Yeah.
2021.
I mean, if you think about it, it's the way that corporates work. They invited all these leaders who haven't a clue. They think, oh, it's the United Nations, it must be good. We'll go along, and they get treated to a week of dinners and lots of booze and lots of pretty hostess girls and loads of paid and green activists, NGOs, who come along, and literally I think there was something like thousand, I can't remember how many thousand paid activists at that conference. So they were just literally wooed into this false sense of security that they were saving this planet somehow, and they all fell for it.
Right.
Yeah, and Prince Charles was there in his with Royal Yacht Britannia in Rio de Janeiro harbour, pushing the whole thing along as well.
Yes. Yes. Prince Sausage Fingers, as Tom Luongo said on a
I
video that I
Prince,
posted a day or so ago, before I recorded this, because he's going to be visiting the United States and addressing Congress. And he's someone who's really keen and eager about saving the planet. And we need to have carbon capture. We need to have CO2 captured because, and this is something that, that I'm going to go to next time I get a chance to speak to a Green Party advocate or something. I've invited them onto my channel, by the way, to have a conversation. So can you explain to me? So carbon dioxide leads to a warmer atmosphere, and then in a warmer atmosphere, you have more humidity and more rainfall. So you've got CO2 plus warmth plus water, and you add daylight. What happens? And when I've spoken to friends and cousins and family members who buy into this, they say, we don't know. It's
yeah.
photosynthesis. The trees then capture, becomes glucose plus oxygen.
It makes my blood boil. There's a big thing going on in the Wirral at the moment up near Liverpool,
Mhm.
where they're going to be cutting. Well, they're going to try. It's being opposed, thank goodness, but they're cutting right through this beautiful countryside in the Wirral to create carbon capture. And there's pipes going through. They're digging up everything. They're cutting down trees, and there's a huge push, and I've been in touch with them. Um, it makes me so angry because it's a waste. It's going to cost millions, and it isn't needed. We don't need any of this. We don't
Yeah,
need any of their nonsense.
but Sandy, I think you're being a bit selfish because what you're not taking into account is the grift that the people who are going to be behind these contractors who are going to make money from all these companies, right? How they're going to get to line their pockets and become even richer. So don't deny them their pound of flesh
You
or their
see,
million pounds.
you're absolutely right. This is what's wrong with the world. When you realize that, in the good old days, you would have contractors who were always they went to pitches with the local councils and with the government, and they were bona fide people that were doing proper contractual work. Now it literally is it's money for the people who have got all their money in offshore accounts, and it's all being financed by the City of London, literally with every all these offshore accounts in maybe Jersey, Cayman Islands, or whatever, making millions out of all these contracts that they're selling.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what it is, so long as they're making money, they don't care about the environment or whatever. It's
No.
just literally because none of this is actually debated properly. It just goes through without consent of the people.
Yeah, well, but it's accepted fact.
Mm.
There's no such thing as photosynthesis will destroy the planet. Everybody knows that,
Well, it's
right?
become a religion, hasn't it? It's
Yes,
just,
it absolutely has.
it's not, you can't debate it. It is the
The
Bible. It is
science
the
is
Bible, the
settled.
Green Bible.
Yep, the science is settled. Okay, so they signed up.
Scientism, yeah.
Yeah, then what happened? And how has it evolved? What is
Well,
it now?
so yeah, it was 8 Millennium Goals. I can't remember what they were exactly, but then it didn't move fast enough. They signed it all up, and it was all a big flurry of, we've won, we've got them all to sign up, and it's some kind of soft law there, but it's kind of just been pushed into legislation now, because we've got the 2008 Climate Change Act, which is, we are the only country in the world to have that, by the way. But what happened is that they nothing happened. So by the time it got to around 2015, well, before then, they thought we've got to accelerate it. So they held a big launch of the 17 goals of Agenda 2030. 2030 is Agenda 21, but with the goal of 30. So 2030. So we've only got a few years now before 2032,
Mhm.
three. So that was their idea. They would accelerate it, and it was a big launch with the Pope in Rome, and President Obama came over, and they launched these 17 goals, which on the face of it, I mean, do look them up. I have actually uh, interpreted them, and if you look at my Twitter account, every day I put up a different couple of goals with the real interpretation of them, because they on the face of it, they sound really worthy. Like, take goal 1, for instance:
Mhm.
end all hunger. Or was it, no, end poverty? Sorry, it's end poverty is the first one. And that's a big ask, isn't it? End poverty worldwide. Yeah, we can do that, they think. But what the idea is that you make everybody equally poor. You bring in UBI, and you destroy the economy, and you do this leveling up thing by making everybody, on universal basic income is what the end game is. And and the rich get richer, but the people stay poor. So that's how you end what they think is poverty, by making everybody more dependent on the state as well.
Right.
Massively huge dependency on the state. Yeah.
Well, because the last thing that it's such a bloody lie. Because the last thing any feudal overlord wants is a population that's resilient and self-sufficient.
Yes. Autonomy. They want to get rid of any form of autonomy. Yeah.
Yep, and that means destroying the middle class, because the middle
Yes.
class are resilient and relatively self-sufficient,
Mhm.
and they're smart. So you want to reduce them to the level of serfs, reduce everybody to the level of serfs, except then everybody gets poorer. This doesn't make sense.
Mm.
Wouldn't it be
Yeah.
better just to kill off all the poor people?
Which is exactly the next thing, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I mean, it is a very Malthusian. It's anti-nature, and it's anti-human. It's anti-biological. The whole thing is anti-biological. If you think about it, CO2 is the gas of life. I mean, farmers put it into their greenhouses to grow tomatoes. It is, and if we go below what it is now, if we go much more sort of, I mean, it's, what is it? I think it's 400 parts per million at the moment. Now, before people were on the planet, it was 900 million parts per million or whatever. So it's not anthropogenic, because before man was on the planet, it was much higher.
Sure.
So
What?
and the 400 parts per million, if it goes sort of down to, I can't remember what it is now, but if it goes down to probably 100 parts per million, then everything dies.
Because there isn't enough. Yeah. Now, I've asked friends and family, like, what is the percentage of the atmosphere that is carbon dioxide? And it's really wild, because it's something. What we're talking about is 0.04%
That's right.
of the
400 parts
atmosphere
per
is
million.
carbon
Yep.
dioxide.
Yep.
A friend of mine who's a sixth form teacher, he said, "Oh, 50%."
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And which just goes straight in terms of the propaganda. So that's number one. You said end all poverty. Let's go through them quickly. What's number two?
Number two, do you know, I don't know them all. Number two is end hunger worldwide. Oh gosh, that's a big one too, isn't it? Oh, of course
Okay,
we,
so I know what they're doing to
yeah.
end hunger.
Go on, you tell
They're
me.
encouraging pastoral farming. decentralizing farming, leaving farmers free to farm, giving them lots and lots of incentives to farm, making sure they have access to prime agricultural land, to fertilizer, to urea, to cheap energy. They're encouraging it in schools and universities and colleges and celebrating farming. But
I
that's how
mean,
you end hunger.
wouldn't that be lovely if that were the case? And if they
Yeah.
really cared about people, that's exactly what they would be doing. But they're not. They're sanctioning farmers. They're making the fertilizer. They're sanctioning the fertilizer. They've given them there's the sustainable farming incentive in the UK is an incentive to not grow food. Literally, I mean, I'm dealing with farmers down here, and I helped them with the protest in London in on Budget Day, and quite honestly, a lot of these farmers are facing bankruptcy, and farming people think farmers are rich, right? But
Mm.
they're not. It's all bound up with property and equipment, and at the moment they're being told that you've got to set up businesses on your land that aren't farming. You can have glamping, you can have herbal leys, lots of flowers for the bees and the insects, and you can have forest schools or whatever it might be. You can have solar farms, wind farms. You can have data centers on your land. You can sell it off, and all of it is to further this technocratic, agenda.
Well, here's what the policies that are in place uh, in England, actually, plus elsewhere. There's things like they have to have a certain amount of their land for uh, growing wild,
That's right.
prime
Rewild.
agricultural land,
Yeah,
right? 10 to 20%.
yeah.
Um, then farmland is being taken up for solar farms, which is
Hmm.
just incredibly green, destroying the soil with this really inefficient way of energy generation that is environmentally unfriendly. Then there's the incentives the government is giving for farmers to retire. Here's £100,000 and you can retire. There's the lots and lots of regulations, so you're not out on the field
Mm.
tending your animals and plowing your plants or whatever, right? Because you got to fill in all these forms, and then you got to do all of it green, so it becomes more and more expensive. Then there's the assault on supermarkets, which is happening in a very clever way, like subtle way, which is by allowing people to keep shoplifting without being punished,
Yes.
which actually reduces the food availability, raises the costs,
Yeah.
and slowly destroys supermarkets and food shops. And at some point, the government will step in and say, okay, this isn't working. We'll take over and we'll have our food distributions. Then there's the destruction of food processing factories and plants that's been going on. Then, of course, the bird flu. So, oh my God, we have to kill all the healthy chickens in order to save them, right?
Yeah.
So destroying millions and millions of chickens, because eggs, the problem with eggs is they're very cheap and very nutritious. Then of course the regulation of chickens, that if you own chickens, you have to, in your back garden chickens, you have to let the government know, otherwise it's a £1,500 fine or a 6-month prison sentence if you don't tell them. Then there's the culling of livestock, because the problem with cows and lamb is that they fart, and then that flatulence destroys the planet. So then reducing the food supply, and then the sanctioning of fertilizer and urea when the start of the Ukraine-Russia war. So we're not going to get it anymore. So then whatever land is productive can't produce as much without fertilizers. Is there anything else? Oh, inheritance tax,
Inheritance tax. I was going to say you missed inheritance tax, which is a huge
impoverishing the
one. Yeah. Yeah.
the farmers even more, which is that they're going to have to pay tax
Mm.
on inheritance that they would pass over to their families, which actually means that they have to get rid of, because they're asset rich, like you said, the money's tied up in the land. They
Yeah.
have to sell the land in order to pay the tax. So then the farms aren't being passed down through generations, but then you're also having the loss of farming knowledge.
Mm. Oh yes. Well, do you know it's interesting because they brought out a document. Now I'm trying to remember what it was. It was in 2024, and it was given to all farmers, saying that in the future there's going to be legislation brought in to make sure that you can't. This is why the inheritance tax was so pernicious, because it really sorted this out. You can't hand your farm down to your son or your daughter. You know, if you did, they'd have to go to university to learn how to be a farmer, to learn robotics, and how to create insect biomass, and all these, all these different things. And robotics is a really big thing in what they consider the farming of the future. So farmers don't really, there was this sort of agri-farm stuff that went into some of the very big farms in the UK, but your small and medium-sized farmers are pretty much, sort of trying to farm the normal way, without the big tech. I mean, there were some cows given 5G collars and horrible things like that with agri-tech. But on the face of it, it's to de-incentivize farmers from farming, and to get rid of them altogether,
Yeah.
because what they've got in mind is these state-run vertical farms, indoor, under lights, with robots doing all the work.
Yeah, and it won't be in any way near as nutritious as what we get from
Exactly.
outdoor traditional farming.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's something I want to tell you, Sandy. I don't want to dwell too long about this,
Yeah.
but do you know that it's a criminal offense to pay inheritance tax?
To pay any tax, I believe.
Yes, yes, yes. So
Yeah.
if you're in Britain, it is a criminal offence to pay any tax locally or nationally to government for any reason whatsoever, because you're acting in violation of the International Criminal Court Act and the Terrorism Act. So go to notaxforwar.com or upinarms.uk, and you can find out how you can use trust forms, which is what the rich use, in order to protest what this government are doing in destroying our food industry. They're out to starve us
Yeah.
and kill us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And just don't tell anybody, Sandy.
Oh,
But I've used this process successfully for over 2.5 years
wow.
with the capital gains tax bill. And there's a fortnightly call on Mondays, which with the No Tax for War team, which I
Okay.
facilitate
It's
with others.
amazing. So can
NoTaxForWar.com.
anybody join? Can anybody
Well, you
join?
need to go to the website, sign up,
Website. Okay. Okay.
and then
I'll have a look
you
at
come
that.
along,
That's amazing.
and we
That's
can talk a bit more about that
yeah,
offline as
yeah.
well.
Because I think farmers, when I was at the protest, I interviewed quite a few elderly farmers, and they were just, it was awful, because some of them said, well, I've had a cancer diagnosis and I'm not going to take cancer treatment because, well, it's probably bad anyway, but I'd rather die and let my children inherit the money than have to pay the inheritance tax, because I mean, it was before April. They had to do it all before April, which is now, isn't it? Yeah, we're talking November. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
need to
awful.
spread the word about this,
Mm.
and then I imagine I'm speculating here that that farmer or many other farmers have had that very safe and effective mRNA injection,
Yeah.
which is really good. And you and I, we talked about this. Have had we have hourly boosters.
Oh, hourly.
We stopped this video so that we could keep up to date with our hourly boosters, so we don't die,
Mm.
right? Because that's also part of this. How does that
Oh,
tie
it's
in?
huge. Yeah. Well, that really comes into goal. Now, let me think, which one is it? I
Is it the
think
one
it's
about
goal
being
three.
healthy?
Yeah, goal three is health and well-being. And it's about really turning the whole of the NHS and the healthcare system into genomic medicine. And it really is. It's about vaccinations and um, screening. I mean, constant screening. They call it predictive, preventative, and there's another P, and I can never remember it. Medicine. So they will constantly screen you. I don't know if you do. When you're over a certain age, you get a letter from the NHS saying you've got to have this screening and this screening and this screening, and it's because they actually want to find something. Because if you just leave it alone, and I don't answer any of those. I wouldn't, I just, anyway, it's all about constant um looking really deep into the DNA as well, which is a little bit sinister. And they're linking all of your healthcare records with your shopping habits, with everything, with all the biometrics that are in the supermarkets, for instance. And, all of this will be linked up when they get their full blown, CBDC, digital ID, whatever they think they're going to get going, because all of your data will be linked together. So if you've got diabetes, for instance, and you go to your supermarket, it'll be logged into your healthcare, which will be logged into your shopping habits. And you won't be able to, you'll find it's just like in China. You'll find that if you go to buy a cake or a packet of M&Ms or something, the computer will say, no, you can't buy that because you've got a health problem. I
Right,
mean,
but it's for my kids.
well, the kids will have to go and buy it then because, or somebody else will have to go and buy it because you won't be allowed it.
Okay, so that's number three, and then number four,
What's number four? Number four, I
or do you
think.
want to just focus on others that you think are particularly
Well, yeah, I mean,
significant?
I think equality education they talk about as well, which is, you know, I think that what they're really looking at there is machine learning and the harvesting of data. So literally, they want children in school from 0 to 19 or further education, and then they've got this thing called lifelong learning, which then you're still absorbed into this kind of and all the time, in schools, children are now using platforms where they are being data harvested the whole time, and they've got this awful thing called now what is it? What's it called? There's STEM learning, which is just science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So they'll phase out any humanities, anything that's arty or literature or whatever. We're getting a lot of STEM schools, which is really, really awful. But there's also social and emotional learning, where during the children are encouraged to talk about their home life on the screen with their, whatever their program is that they're dealing with, because a lot of it is going onto, instead of writing, they're on computers, and they are learning that the computer will work out their through their what their emotions are, and they'll work out who are the leaders, who are the followers, what kind of profile that child fits into, and how they're going to fit into this kind of weird military industrial complex. And they do that, they data harvest them. So there's pay for success schemes on the blockchain, how you can sort of how children can gain tokens on the non-fungible tokens on the blockchain. I mean, it's all so horrible. I mean, you'll understand all this stuff, won't you? Because you're a crypto guy. But it's all about impact investing. And so a lot of the city will be betting. It's like betting on futures of children.
Wow,
Sorry, I don't.
wow,
It's absolutely
wow,
horrible.
that's incredible. Okay, now I hadn't thought of that. What I had thought of is that it's a way for them to keep an eye on who's likely to be a troublemaker,
Yeah.
and then do whatever they need to do to stop those potential troublemakers, so
Mm.
that we're there, we become little as diverse as worker ants, that we're all doing the same stuff, all doing the same stuff.
Yes.
Because and then I told you my children never went, they were home educated, but there's the children and well-being bill, which is going to pretty much wipe out home education
There you go. Yeah.
in England.
Yeah, and I think you know the education 17 goal, but I think it's goal 4. They will they'll try and do this, which is, as you say, to try and make it more difficult for people to educate their children at school. More regulation, it's all about regulation, and it's all
For
to do
it's
with
for
safeguarding.
children's safety. For
Oh yeah,
children's safety,
safeguarding.
yes. Because what was it? I remember reading this about 20 years ago. Something like 16 children every year in England commit suicide because of bullying at school.
Oh,
And then, so many instances I've dealt with where a child's being abused at home and the school hasn't picked it up for years.
yeah.
So, but at least they're safer that way. Not. Anyway, okay. So This is going on in the UK. Oh, actually, before we do on the trans agenda also fits into this.
It does, yeah.
How does that fit
Well, the
into it?
trans agenda, I mean, what we're seeing is a destruction of so much in our society. The trans agenda is really, it's getting rid of the sense of identity. And this is why digital ID is interesting, because if you can convince a young child, that they can be anything they like, they can be, male or female, and they can swap around, and they can be neither, they can be whatever they like. That sense of identity, I mean, children are born with a sense of identity.
Hmm.
They know what they are until, I mean, they figure it out. Sometimes you might get a girl that loves climbing trees and she's a tomboy. We don't have tomboys anymore. Oh
Mm.
no. We have transgender girls who want to be boys, And it's the same with the boys. I mean, my son, he's very much a man. He's married with kids now. He had two sisters. He used to play dollies, with them because he was outnumbered, you know. But but bless him, But and I wouldn't put him in a dress because of that, or curl his hair, or put ribbons in his hair, or whatever. But now this is what, oh my God, there's this I found parents desperate to put their boys into dresses, because, oh, that's what he wants to do. Well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but there's a time when, and there was one woman that I know who said, oh, he doesn't want to wear his dress anymore, and she was really upset. And he's thinking, well, I said, well, that's his choice if he's grown out of it, and that's what children do. They grow out of
Yeah.
things like that. They figure it out themselves. And to force that ideology on young people to say, look, this is normal. This is what you should be doing. And you find a lot of indoctrination goes on at universities. And I know two people whose children have gone to university and come out a completely different gender and found it very difficult. And what they don't talk about is how, when they've gone through that process and they've gone through the medication to change their gender, they don't talk about the casualties in all of that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of casualties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So when you change somebody's gender, it also very, very neatly it morphs into the notion of transhumanism and digital twins, because if you can take somebody's, I call it their sex away. I don't like the word gender. My daughter's a midwife, and years ago they used to have on the form sex. What sex is a baby born at? Now it's what gender is it assigned at birth. So midwives are told to assign a gender at birth, and it used to be, what sex is it?
has he got a
Boy,
willy or
girl.
not? Has this
Has it
baby
got
got
a
a
wee or
willy?
not? Exactly. Well, sometimes there's sometimes it's unfortunate and somebody comes out a little bit one or
Very
the other
rare. Something
immature,
like
but
half a
that's different.
percent.
But
Yeah.
that's different. That's
Yeah.
different. It's very, very small percent, as you say. But what they're trying to do is if there is no sex, it's very easy then to, because you know about the transhumanism agenda, and about the push to create something half machine, half man,
Hmm.
that with Neuralink, all that kind of stuff that Elon Musk was getting involved in. And there is there is this whole transhumanism agenda, and it's for, because cyborgs are no sex, how easy is it to morph a person then who has no sex into that
Sandy,
cyborg?
I've long been saying this, right? Because I've never I've kind of worked it out for myself, the thinking about it, right? And I'm pleased to say that at least you and I agree, or we're both wrong, or we're both right, but we agree, which is that one of the things that I'm absolutely certain of is that I'm a man.
Yeah,
I'm a man, right? And it's
yeah.
absolutely, and you, I imagine, are absolutely certain that
I'm
you're a woman.
absolutely convinced I'm a woman. Yes,
Just
thank you.
checking, right? In case you wanted to transition, I didn't want to eliminate that possibility for
Yeah.
you, right? You can have it open as an option, but that's one thing I'm certain. Now, if you're able to confuse me so much that I have no idea whether I'm a man or not, well, then I'm really easy to manipulate.
Hmm.
If I don't even have that bedrock, and the other thing that it does, it destroys family. It
Yes.
undermines faith.
Yes.
We have this crazy situation in the Green Party, which, listening to you, I'm thinking this really is a front for eugenicism. That's what the
It is.
Green Party is, where you have the woke left with their transgender and their photosynthesis denialism and destroying the family, and with this conservative Muslims wing
Mhm.
who are they're uniting because they're both opposed to the genocide in Gaza, in Palestine and Lebanon. And the deputy leader of the Green Party, the Progressive Green Party, is a Muslim whose wife is in a hijab, which doesn't sound very progressive, liberal to me.
Do you know, everything's upside down and
It
inside
just
out.
at some point it's going to rupture, just like Jeremy Corbyn's Your Party did, because the two just aren't aligned. Because the Muslims are no way going to go along with this trans agenda. Now, what I suspect is likely to happen is that this Muslim wing, possibly Muslim Brotherhood influenced, is actually going to take over the Green Party and use it as a Trojan horse
Yes,
into Parliament. And that
absolutely.
and then the May the 7th local elections, we're going to have the collapse of Labour, of Keir Starlin's Labour, thank goodness.
Yeah,
But we're going to have an upswing in support for this eugenicist front, which is the
yeah,
Green Party.
yeah. I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? That yeah, that a lot of their it's funny, they're pushing this film just recently that's going uh, into every um into every town hall and church hall or whatever, and it's a film, and it's just like Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, only that was wrong 30 years ago,
Hmm.
and it's now being rerun by the Greens and it's a coalition between something like it's a company called Zero Hour, which is very, I find Zero Hour really odd because they've even, they even make references to Pol Pot and things. I mean, it's very, very bizarre. And all of it, yeah, on all of it is very, very, very strange. And they're kind of trying to get votes, obviously, for this Polanski chap, and trying to sort of get the Green Party, really people behind the Green Party. And it's coming to a town near you. It's now, what do they call themselves? The People's, oh, I can't remember what it's called now. It's
But
something,
but the
yeah, the
move
people,
this on. It doesn't matter because when you say about 0 hour,
yeah.
there's something that unites all these wonderful notions
Mm.
that are for our own good, like Ground Zero or
Mm.
Pol Pot's. What did He wanted to go back, get rid of capitalism,
He
go
did,
to
yeah,
nothing, and then
yeah,
build afresh. And
yeah.
of course, the Great Reset.
Yes, it's all saying,
We're gonna have a great
yeah,
reset.
yeah.
Now, how is this playing out internationally now? Are all the countries that signed up to it, are they still fulfilling this agenda, or have some moved away?
Well, do you know, I honestly don't know because when you think about it, the Earth Summit was in 1992. It's a long time ago. It was over 30 years ago. And which politicians are still around that signed up for it? It's been inherited by all the politicians that have come afterwards, or the global leaders, or whatever they were. So it seems that everybody's sleepwalking into this Trojan horse. That's the way I see it. They're just sleepwalking, and I'm not sure. I mean, how do you get through? I mean, politicians are just. I mean, they literally they don't think. Most of them don't think. You
Well,
know,
they're puppets. Somebody's got their
they're
hand.
puppets. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
someone else
just.
has got their hand up their bottom and is making the move about, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm wondering internationally. So one is I've covered on my channel, as you know, because you comment, like, and subscribe to every single video, Sandy. I've covered Burkina Faso and what's
Oh yeah.
happening with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, but in particular Burkina Faso with Ibrahim Traore.
Yeah.
And they're implementing the American system of political economy,
Mm.
which is what I believe Trump is implementing in the United States. But of course, MI6 and this MI6 control mainstream media don't want to tell us that
So
because
yeah,
it undermines the City of London, because the American system of political economy is anti-imperialist in its design and in its structure, and it doesn't allow the international banking cartel to use financial leverage to extract resources from other nations. So then, and say for example the trans agenda, I can't see the trans agenda working at all in Muslim nations.
no, of
It's
course it
just
won't.
not
It
going
won't.
to.
It won't.
Now they
It
may
won't.
be taking on certain other
Yeah,
elements,
yeah.
but I think a lot of and people who are watching, let us know what you think in the comments. But I wonder, this is pure speculation on my part, but I think a lot of the third world nations are waking up to
Yes.
this, the crypto imperialism of the green agenda, that
Mm.
of net zero, of the climate change agenda, because aren't isn't the rest of the world fortunate? So here come the Europeans. They know what's good for you. It used to be Christianity as a cover for plundering resources and enslaving people in the rest of the world. But now we're going to save the planet, not through Christianity, exporting Christianity, but through exporting the climate change agenda. So no development for you, Tanzania, no development for you, Burundi, and it's for your own good.
Yes, I mean, I did listen to yeah the podcast that you did the other day with is it Joaquin,
Joaquin
Joaquin.
Flores.
What I found really interesting was all the stuff that he was talking about, where you've got the SPLC,
Yes.
sort of literally controlling billions of offshore accounts from the City of London, and it literally financing KKK. You couldn't make it up. I
Oh,
mean,
it's insane. So,
it's
so,
insane.
so
It is insane. Yeah.
President Obama gives money to some NGO that then gives money to some other NGO or gives it
Yeah.
to the SPLCC, and then the Southern Poverty Law Center give money to Aryan Nation and
Yeah.
KKK. And then they say, oh, look, 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 white supremacy's on the increase. Give us more money.
You've got the far left financing the far right. I mean, giving it to the far. I mean, I just don't understand. It's all meant to
Oh,
be a
it was,
confusion, isn't it?
yeah,
Isn't
it
it meant
is.
to be?
But Sandy, the problem with you,
Yeah.
right, is that you care about humanity, authentically care about humanity. You've got some level of integrity. That you're not tied into the City of London's the
Yeah.
international banking cartel. That's what you
Yeah.
need to aspire to, because that's where all the money is.
Well, it's really frightening how when you realize how the City of London has literally, I mean, it went from empire, and when everybody, all the countries of the empire wanted their own independence, they just shifted the whole thing into financial services, didn't they?
Yeah.
So it's just became this, and then they set up all the offshore accounts, so anything could be laundered right the way through there that they used to do with the empire. But of course, it's now this, and literally it's a hotbed of sort of oligarchy and drug dealers and human trafficking, you name it, it's going through the City of London, and it is absolutely horrendous. And yes, that has to stop, but how do we stop it
Well,
without destroying the UK as well? I don't know, because people say, oh, it's the UK's fault. Well, it's not. It's a jurisdiction in its own right,
it's the
and it makes
international
its own
banking
rules up.
cartel.
Yes.
That's right. It's funny because it is a place, the City of London, but it's grown out of that, and it spawned the United Nations, it spawned the
Yes.
WEF,
Yeah.
it spawned
Yeah.
NATO, it spawned the European Union, it spawned the World Health Organization, it's fostered
The Muslim Brotherhood.
the Muslim Brotherhood, Zionism,
I know.
Christian Christian born again Christians that somehow
Yes.
believe that what you got to do is you got to kill Christians, support the killing of
Yeah.
Christians and Muslims in the Levant in order to bring about the second coming. Uh,
So
no, no,
it
doesn't
gets so
sound quite.
murky. It gets
Yes,
very
it's so
murky.
murky. But one of the things that became clear for me about looking at the SPLCC, Southern Poverty Law Centre,
Yes. Yeah.
is so they're getting money and then they're funding their enemies in order to justify their own existence and perpetuate their own project. Well, Netanyahu, Israel at one point, I don't know if they're still doing it, was paying Hamas $30 million a month through Qatar. Hezbollah was set up by the IRG by the French spy agency.
Yes,
The
yeah,
IRGC were receiving arms and weaponry from the CIA transited through Israel. So it's
yeah.
the same model on a much, much larger scale. Human beings doing shitty things and lying about it.
Lying about it, indeed.
Now,
And it's been the same. It's been thus ever since the. When you think about Churchill playing both sides in the Second World War, it's the same thing, isn't it? Yeah.
yes, but here's the difference. I actually think that their project is failing and is
Okay.
going to fail,
Okay.
right?
Tell me how.
Well, one is my understanding lockdown, they wanted to do that for 10 years,
Yeah.
right? And
It didn't happen.
then when it didn't happen, when we're all locked down, then they can really, really control us.
Mm.
But that didn't happen. People woke up. Then, what happened with the injections, and apart from the hourly boosters that I have, I didn't have any of those really safe and effective injections. But what I saw was people had them, and unfortunately, they must have got a really bad batch, and then they got injured. Then they woke up. Then people around them saw it, and some people had their second injections, and then they got hurt, and people around them saw that. So more and more people were waking up through that, beginning to ask questions, talking to each other like
Yeah.
this, and the movement is growing. And what we now have is decentralized communication that's available to us,
Yeah.
forms of decentralized private money like Pirate Chain, like Monero, like Zano. Now, of course, you may not know about these,
I
right? But
don't know about any of those.
right, but I
Gonna
suppose
have to educate me one day.
evolutions of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Then you have um, I suppose more a growing awareness, and the problem with a top-down structure like the Great Reset, like Agenda 2030, is it's incredibly unwieldy and
Yeah.
incredibly expensive, and they have to put this all into place before the fiat currency inevitably collapses. So
Mm.
they're in a race against time,
Yeah.
which they're losing because more and more people are waking up.
Right. Can I just ask one thing? I mean, the
Sure.
whole idea about crypto, if I'm right, is that it's free, that you don't. But there seems to be a sort of increasing layers of control built in with, KYC and authentication, all that kind of thing. How does you get over that? Because it's all. At the end of the day, a lot of crypto isn't free anymore because you've got to authenticate the whole time and
Well,
track.
yes, you do, unless you move to fully decentralized systems, which
How
are
do,
available. See, you can't. It's not possible for a centralized system to defeat the forces of decentralization.
yeah.
It's just not possible. These 193 countries that signed up to it, they're not all signed up to it now. El Salvador isn't.
Right, yeah,
Burkina Faso isn't. And
yeah,
then other countries are seeing what's happening with Burkina Faso. And the leader there, Ibrahim Traore, he's celebrated throughout Africa, throughout the people of
yeah,
Africa.
yeah. I've seen them, yeah.
Can you imagine what it would take to destroy all the ants' nests in the world? You just can't. You'd have to
No,
destroy the entire planet because
exactly.
they're so decentralized.
But I could see that working in places, like South America and Burkina Faso and places that have managed to keep their sovereignty. But I just feel that UK and Europe is lost now. Will that ever happen there? It,
Yes.
you
With
think it
this,
will?
I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Mark Atwood.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mark. Yes, I
Mark,
know
right?
Mark.
Mark,
Lovely.
he said something, and he's absolutely fabulous, and he boggles my mind,
Yes.
right? Every single time, right? It's like, what
Yeah.
are you saying, Mark? No, right? Because he's so off the edge, right? For
Yeah.
me, anyway, it seems that way, right? It's like, whoa, over there. He's really out there. He said this really great thing on one of his videos that he's been criticized for being optimistic. And what he says is, look, the end result is the same. I'm just going to have a better time between now and then.
Well, that's a really lovely
It's great,
philosophy,
right?
a
Look,
great way of looking at it.
but
Yeah.
also we have to believe in change. We have to stand for change. Otherwise, why bother? We have,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
that conversation that this will fail, and if I stand for it and believe in it, and I look and I see signs for it, which I do, that's infectious. Wouldn't you rather take on what I'm saying than the conversation? Oh, it's all hopeless.
I know. I mean, Rich, I absolutely get having having positive thought and replacing the whole financial system with something that is fair and free and all that kind of thing. I love the idea. But when you take Ireland, for instance, and Ireland is on its knees at the moment. The
Yeah.
uptake of the 17 goals there has been 80% compared with other countries, which is usually 12 to 17%. So they've been hammered. They've been hammered. How do you reverse engineer all the damage that has been done there?
Okay. Here's what happens when people lose everything.
Mm. They
What
have to
happens?
start again.
Well, no, they have nothing to lose,
Yeah, I suppose so.
and then they go for it. And that's what's happened throughout history. There are cycles of history. There's patterns. What we're dealing with has happened before.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union collapsed because it was unwieldy. It couldn't work. The Blade Runners, I don't know if they're still going or not, but they did such a great job
Oh, they
in
did.
London,
Yeah, yeah, they did.
right? How do you stop that? Well, it just becomes too expensive to keep putting up these
Yeah. Yeah.
cameras because all they need to do is buy £100 angle grinder, which they can use again and again and again and again, and they get support of the local community. And then
Yeah.
what happens is the local authority has to raise more revenue. The government prints more money, which devalues the pound. So then people feel it in their pockets and they get even angrier because they're being impoverished.
Yeah.
Or the councils raise more revenue in local taxation to pay for these cameras that keep getting cut down, and then people are like, no, we're increasingly pissed off, we're not going to put up with this. And then they discover, or they get wise to, their representatives in parliament and in the local council aren't serving them. And then what's happened in history throughout when that's happened? Pitchforks.
Yes, exactly. I think it will possibly come to
It will,
something.
it will.
Yeah,
And
it will.
and the noises that I'm hearing
Yeah.
is this summer.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that in a way, this is human nature because we're creative. We think of other
Yeah,
ways. And
yeah,
I think possibly because these people don't think like human beings, they underestimate the power of the human nature to survive and to
yes.
oppose and to push back. And I just hope that the people of the UK and Ireland haven't been completely numbed by everything to do
No,
that. Yeah,
it takes something like 3% of the population to cause a revolution.
this is true.
And there's more people awake to the
Yeah,
injections than 3%, right? And then, Sandy, I've known about your work for years and followed what you do. And now, you may not have this opinion of yourself, what I'm about to say, right? You are a warrior. You go and talk to local councils, you go and talk to people, you go and talk to me, you go on other channels, and you spread this message of freedom, and you're waking people up.
well, that's great. I have been doing it for a long time, but sometimes I think it's just, is it all worth it? But I
Well, the
think it,
conversation is,
yeah,
see, conversations move in waves,
yeah.
and the conversation is growing. Because, for example, the 15-minute back in 2020, I imagine you would have been saying to people,
Oh
look,
yeah,
it's 15-minute cities. This is what's coming. This is what's coming. This is what's coming. And now we can see it in the city of Oxford where they're
yes.
putting in place. And as people realize, okay, I get 100 free trips out of my zone, but I've used those up. So what am I going to do?
Mm,
Well, some people will carry on because they're afraid or they don't know how to. Other
mm.
people will find workarounds.
Yeah.
They'll find little gaps in the fence.
Mm.
They'll create gaps in the fence. They'll follow, other people will create gaps in the fence, and then they'll more people will go through those gaps. It was like the how come lockdown collapsed, or how come people stopped masking themselves.
Yeah.
Now, admit I fell for it for the first 6 weeks, but then I woke up. I was like, why am I just going along with what the government and corporations are saying without
Yeah.
questioning? That's not me. And it was because I was scared. I bought in. I bought into the whole propaganda. But then I started questioning, and then I stopped wearing masks. And then I'm telling my friends, and they stop wearing masks. And I'll go and meet up with some of the friends that want to meet up, and we hug each other. How hugging is it was a revolutionary act in those days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that
Hugging
peculiar?
revolution. It was
That's
wonderful.
that's right, hugging revolution. So more and more people waking up. And I remember the anti-lockdown demos in London, because I'd go to those regularly,
Yeah.
and I watched them get bigger and bigger and bigger without any coverage on the
Yes.
mainstream media. So
Yeah, I mean,
now,
there were millions of us, and it was so what a brilliant, how wonderful that feeling was to be marching with a million people and it was peaceful and
hug.
wonderful.
Who would hug it? Not wearing
Hugging
masks.
each
Oh
other.
my
Yeah.
God! Spreading this contagion of love and freedom and unity, and then there are people like yourselves, people like Andrew Bridgen, who's been on my channel a few times, not enough
Yeah.
times. People like David Curtin, leader of
Oh,
the Heritage Party, David Icke. I'd see them. I didn't see Andrew Bridgen on those lockdowns because I don't think he woke up a little bit later,
I think he
right?
came a bit
He
later.
could,
Yeah.
because he got hurt by this really safe
He
and
did. He
effective
did. Yeah.
injection. But people like David Icke and David Curtin, and Piers Corbyn, not Piers Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn's brother. I forget his name. It was
It is
Piers
Piers.
Corbyn.
Piers
Yeah,
Corbyn.
Piers Corbyn, right?
Yes.
Who were putting their head above the parapet right
Yeah.
from the beginning, like yourself, inspiration to others.
Yeah. Thank
So,
you. That's yeah.
can you let me know in the comments, right, if you know of Sandy Adams, or you didn't know of Sandy Adams, if you find what she's doing by waking people up about Agenda 2030, are you inspired by the example that she sets? Let us know in the comments. And if you're not, then don't let us know. Lie about it.
Oh, brilliant.
Sandy, where can people find you?
Well, I have a podcast called 2030 and Beyond with Sandy Adams, which goes on weekly, and onto YouTube and X. You can find me on X, as my handle is at Sandy Adams 2030. And I've got a website called sandyadams.net, which is all about 2030. And yeah, I'm on Facebook and all the other normal
Well,
places.
we'll have some of the links in the description below. Certainly your
Yeah,
X and your channel, and
yeah.
just really, really thank you for taking the time out on this sunny afternoon to spend it indoors talking to me about
Oh
Agenda
no,
2030.
it's been an absolute joy. It really has. And yeah, I'd love you to come on my podcast
Sure,
if you
I
do
could
that
talk.
sort of thing.
I could talk about notaxforwar.com. I'd love to
Oh,
do
that
that.
would be great. Yeah.
I'd
Yeah,
love to do
because
that.
yeah, it's 2030 and Beyond with Sandy Adams on YouTube. So yeah, that would be
Thank you.
lovely. Thank you
Thank you.
so
And
much. It's been a really good.
everybody who's watching, thank you so much for watching. Let us know if you're inspired by Sandy. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. Thank you for hyping. Thank you for signing up for my newsletter and for supporting me on Ko-fi.com. This is Rich and Sandy signing out. All the best. Bye bye.